Ohayo my SotNs. I hope you had a great summer this year. How was my summer? Well, as you can see, I am currently enjoying one of my favorite Konami titles, Akumajo Dracula X, Keka no Yasukyoku, or as it's called in English, Devil's Castle Dracula X, Nocturne in the Moonlight, or the localized version, Castlevania, Symphony of the Night.
I do prefer the Japanese title, of course, but I will be calling it Symphony throughout this video, just to keep it simple.
Anyway,
Symphony was released on the classic PlayStation 1 in 1997. This game has some of the most subarashi 2D graphics for its time, during a time when a lot of games were experimenting with 3D gaming. Some that were good, and some that were awful. But Konami didn't feel the need to jump into 3D development yet, since the world of 2D gaming had not been mastered yet.
And they made the right choice.
Gekka no Yasukyoku is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. Everything this game does is on a god tier level of sugoi game design. Breathtaking visuals? Check. Super satisfying gameplay? Check. Amazing music? Check, check, check.
Which is all you need to be able to make a super sugoi action game. But guess what? Gekka no Yasukyoku does even more than just that.
This game also has a compelling story where Alucard, the son of Dracula, has woken up from his slumber and headed for Dracula's castle, feeling that something weird is going on inside his father's home. During his journey, he encounters both new and familiar characters.
Gekka no Yasukyoku has a great story and well-written characters. Which reminds me,
we can't forget the amazing voice acting that the seiyuu put their heart and soul into. And I'm not talking about that really baka voice acting we got here in the West.
Time, monster. You don't belong in this world.
That was just awful. Instead, the Japanese version had some really amazing voice acting.
滅びよ、ここはお前の住む世界ではない。私は自らの力で蘇るのではない。欲深な人間どもによって蘇るのだ。力が唯一の正義なのだからな。
Wow, Dracula's voice in this version is absolutely sugoi. Well, this is kind of the quality I would expect from my favorite Japanese voice actor, Wakamoto Norio.
I am sure you swordlings and anime fans recognize his voice immediately.
私は私のやり方でやっているんだ。バカめ、貴様の毒など効かんわ。Hello, everyone. How are you? Fine, thank you.
This game has so much to offer, but the biggest and most unique thing about this game is the non-linear approach to the gameplay. A 2D side-scrolling action platformer with a big map to explore. Gekka no Yasukyoku was the first of its kind to do this kind of...
Hey Sephirothsword57, I have some bad news about that.
Ohayo Chrono, I'm currently doing a review of Akumajo Dracula X, Gekka no Yasukyoku, so I'm a little busy right now. What was the bad news you wanted to talk about?
Oh, gomenasai Sephirothsword57. Anyway, I heard what you were saying about Gekka no Yasukyoku being the first of its kind, but I've heard that there is a game that used the same concept before it.
Huh? Really?
Yes, at least from what I've heard. You see, back in the day when I was part of Nintendo and Chrono Trigger was released on the Super Nintendo, I heard about a side-scrolling game where you explore a big map. This game is called Super Metroid. Nintendo fanboys claim that it's supposed to be a masterpiece.
Masterpiece, huh? We will see about that.
Wait, you don't mean you're...
I'm gonna be playing it right now and see if it is a masterpiece or not.
Well then, with your knowledge of objective Japanese game design, I'm sure that you will be able to see what that game really is, Sephirothsword57. Also, I hope that you don't think that I still have some loyalty left for Nintendo.
I know, Chrono. You are a close friend. And you already proven yourself when Chrono Trigger was released for the great PlayStation. You don't need to apologize anymore.
Arigato Sephirothsword57. I do regret my past, but when the superior version of my game was released for the PlayStation, I finally understood. You are a true friend, Sephirothsword57.
I guess we will be checking out this game called Super Metroid.
So, apparently many people believe that this game inspired Yasukyoku with its level design. So let's see what this game has to offer.
And as soon as the game starts, I've encountered a lot of problems already.
First off, there is this introduction where you walk through a bunch of corridors and doors until you see a dragon. And then we have to run all the way back to the beginning again, but with a time limit.
Okay, what was the point of that?
We then land on this planet and the game actually starts. So what was the point of that intro stage? It was not a tutorial or something, since they didn't even show you any obstacles or enemies. And to make it even worse, you have to run back the same way you came from, instead of just skipping it. Nothing about that opening was necessary, and a complete waste of time. I took some time to figure out the controls. And wow.
This is absolutely bugger.
So this game has a run button for some reason. Okay, so there is another Nintendo game that also has a run button. Yes, that's right, Super Mario. I see a pattern here, Nintendo.
Why make the player hold down a button? It doesn't make sense. There's no reason not to run, so am I gonna have to hold down the button throughout the whole game?
They could have done something more useful with that button instead, and just let you run from using the D-pad. Bad game design like this is expected from a baka Nintendo game, but this is just unbelievable. In Sonic the Hedgehog, you don't need a run button, and those games play perfectly.
This is typical toxic Nintendo game design philosophy, and it's absolutely baka.
Anyway, so I make my way through some corridors, and then I find some kind of power-up. And here is another problem. The game shows what the power-up does, but they don't show you how to do it. I was lucky to figure it out by myself pretty quickly. You have to press down twice on the D-pad, by the way. But how was I supposed to figure that out? And later you find some missiles, which actually shows you how to use them. Why couldn't they have shown me that before with the other item?
Anyway, here's another problem right away.
Missiles. So there are two problems with these. Instead of having a dedicated button for missiles, you have to push select to toggle them. And if you want to use the normal gun again, you have to toggle back to it. Does that make any sense at all? Especially since you had a free button that could have been used for missiles, but no, you Nintendo decided to use that button to run instead. Another thing about missiles are these locked doors where you need to use these missiles to open. But you need 5 missiles to open it. Why 5? 1 should be enough. There's no reason you have to use 5 of them for it to open.
This is getting intense. Encountering so many problems is really frustrating. I think I need to go for a walk. No, wait! Well then, let's get back to the review.
It's a good thing I took a little break, because this game has some garbage to throw at you. So after we go through the door, there is this unreachable item. Now, I get that you probably can get this item later in the game when you have the right item, but showing an item that is just out of reach, it's just teasing and bad game design. If the item was in a room that you could not enter yet, that would make more sense. But this is just Nintendo trying to piss off the player instead of trying to make art. Now I make my way back because there's nothing else to do in this area. And on my way back I stumble upon this machine that just updates the map for me. This is quite confusing. Why would they put a mechanic like this in a game where the main point of it is to explore? Can anyone give me a reason for why this even exists? Actually, I can answer that myself.
There is no reason whatsoever.
Will there be at least one thing in this game that will be enjoyable? Not even the music, if you can call it that, is enjoyable. It's just a bunch of sounds with no real melody. Now I enter this item room and pick up this item, and then I have to fight a boss. So the game tricks you into thinking it's a safe area and then throws this unfair boss at you. What if I didn't have enough HP for the fight? Not that I have to worry about it, because this fight is really easy, but that doesn't mean it's good game design.
Anyway,
I found this health extender while exploring, and this is pretty strange. So you see the number up in the top left corner. Well, that's your health, and in a good game, if you find an item that extends your health by 100, it should say 199, right? Well, instead they just decided to add a box that represents 100 HP you just picked up. It's just strange and bad game design. So I keep playing. I explore more of the map, find no items or power-ups. Then I ran into another problem. I get stuck in this hole after exploring the area, and after trying to get out for a while, I figure out that this game has a really baka and complex wall jump that I have to pull off in order to get out. And the way you do this is... I don't know how to describe it. You have to do this spinning jump against a wall, then push the opposite direction on the D-pad. And then there is this very brief window where you can press the jump button to jump off the wall. It's something nobody would figure out. And of course, the game doesn't even tell you about it. I've played video games throughout my whole life, so I could figure this out after a while. But you shouldn't expect every player to be a master gamer. So I got to another boss fight and... So I got some super missiles now. And guess what? You have to push select 2 times to equip them. The more I play of this game, the more ridiculous it gets.
I don't think I need to explain why this is so baka.
So after playing for a while, finding items and power-ups along the way, I got stuck for a little bit, because there was no way for me to explore anymore. That is until I found it. And it's so well hidden that I thought it was a secret. Now if this was a secret for an energy tank or something, I wouldn't mind. Why did they think this was a good idea? This game has a lot of problems, and this is the worst one so far. I would gladly turn off this game right now and never try it again.
But I made it this far. I might as well keep playing for a little bit longer, just to see how much more baka this gets.
So I fight another boss, which even a baby could beat. Makes sense, considering what most Nintendo fanboys are. And I get a new suit upgrade, so I can now traverse areas with high temperatures. And the game just keeps going and going and going, picking up power-ups after power-ups, fighting easy bosses after another, while being really boring.
I could go over more of the baka things I've found throughout this playthrough, but I would just be repeating all the good points I've made so far. Everything I've encountered probably happens about 10 more times, and that's just me being generous.
I was able to finish all the bosses I needed to fight, and picked up a lot of items, and now it's time to finish this game. And... they couldn't even get the final boss fight to be challenging. It's almost impossible to lose here. Then there is an escape sequence that is not very hard at all.
And that concludes Super Metroid.
It took me 3.5 hours to finish it, and I didn't die a single time, which makes sense considering how easy this game was. So overall, Super Metroid was a short, boring game that is littered with bad game design choices. There are just too many problems with it to be considered a good game. I would say the game is just plain bad, nothing more, nothing less. But considering how much praise this game gets and how amazing some people say it was for its time, I have to say that this was more miserable than I anticipated.
These 3.5 hours I wasted felt like an eternity, even though I was playing at a baby's level of difficulty. I would never recommend this game to anyone who enjoys video games.
But the biggest reason I wanted to play this game was to see how it compares to Symphony and how much alike they really are. But other than being a 2D side-scroller, there is nothing else these games have in common. Everything that Super Metroid does, Symphony does better, and then more. Super Metroid just has a few different armors and weapons, and most of them just stack, so there's no reason to switch between them. Gekka no Yasukyoku has well over 100 different items and equipment, which are all found throughout the different areas in the castle. Super Metroid had awful music, if you can even call it music. Gekka no Yasukyoku has absolutely sugoi music, covering a bunch of different genres. Super Metroid has boring and easy boss fights, made for babies. Gekka no Yasukyoku has epic boss fights that puts your skills and knowledge to the test, with different weaknesses for each boss.
Do I even need to go on?
It's pretty safe to say that the superior game here is Symphony of the Night. Whether Super Metroid was an inspiration for Symphony or not doesn't matter at all. It's a fact that Symphony is the more sugoi game.
Now, I would like to take a minute to say arigato to all my patrons. Sephirothsword57 and the Day Pretender channel is a Patreon-supported show. For only $1 a month, you can support the Sephirothsword57 show. There's a link in the description if you're interested. But anyway, arigato to my low-ranked swordlings and swordlings over on Patreon. And for your Omni swordlings, I hope you enjoyed this review. Have a good night, evening, morning, or day. Moshi mosh!
If you haven't followed already, there is the official Sephirothsword57 Twitter account, run by my brother Dave, with the handle Sephirothsword_. There is also my Twitch channel, where I do live streams, with the name Sephirothsword_sama. You can go ahead and check them out. Moshi mosh!